There is this highly specific kind of psychological whiplash that happens when an author just completely pulls the rug out from under you.
Oh, yeah. Totally. It's the best and worst feeling.
Right. Like you spend an entire novel, hundreds of pages, firmly planted inside the protagonist's skull. You adopt all their biases, their fears, their absolute certainty about, who the villain is.
You think you have the whole architecture of the narrative mapped out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the author hands you a hidden diary, or in our case today, a set of bonus point of view chapters. And the entire structural integrity of what you just read completely collapses.
It is basically the literary equivalent of realizing the locked room mystery you've been trying to solve was actually being observed through a two-way mirror the whole time.
Yes, that is such a good way to put it.
I mean, when we read a single POV narrative, we're intrinsically bound to an unreliable narrator, not because they're malicious or anything, but because they are trapped in their own limited context.
Right, they only know what they know.
Exactly. And when we finally shatter that mirror and look back from the other side, the actual truth of those interactions fundamentally alters the DNA of the story.
Which brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. I'm your host, and today I am sitting down with our resident Empyrean lore expert to just absolutely tear apart this series.
I am so ready for this. We have so much to cover.
We really do. We are targeting the exclusive bonus chapters from Rebecca Yarros, specifically chapters 9, 16, and 27. We are stripping away Violet Sorrengail's perspective entirely to live exclusively in the mind of Xaden Riorson.
Which is a terrifying and fascinating place to be.
It really is, because our goal today is to dissect the ultimate romantic revelation of this series. We are looking for the forensic proof that he fell first, and man, he fell hard.
Oh, he was a goner. Utterly compromised.
But before we get into the minutia of these specific chapters, we really have to talk about the sheer narrative audacity of Yarros withholding this perspective until we had the context of Iron Flame.
It was a massive structural risk, honestly, but a totally necessary one.
How so? Like, why not just give us dual POV from the start?
Because if we had possessed Xaiden's perspective during the initial run of Fourth Wing, the entire political thriller aspect of the rebellion would have been gutted. The tension would be gone.
Oh, right. Because we just know everything he's plotting.
Exactly. But reading these bonus chapters now, armed with all that knowledge of Aretia, the Vinin, the Marked One smuggling operation, it completely shifts the genre of those early interactions.
It really does. It goes from enemies to lovers to, like, highly stressed guy trying to keep everyone alive.
Right. What Violet perceives as this brooding predatory hostility is actually a terrifying masterclass in compartmentalization.
Okay, I actually want to push back on the word masterclass, though.
Oh, tell me why.
Because reading these chapters, he doesn't read like a master of his domain to me. He reads like a man who is barely holding it together.
That's a fair point. He's definitely white-knuckling it.
I mean, think about it. He's running a highly treasonous insurgency. He's responsible for the lives of every marked cadet in that quadrant. And suddenly, the daughter of the woman who ordered his father's execution is just dropped right into his lap.
Right on the parapet. Boom. Problem acquired.
Exactly. He's not in control. He is managing a rapid, catastrophic systems failure in real time.
I love that phrasing, a catastrophic systems failure. That is a much more accurate assessment, and it requires us to analyze the macro structure that trapped him there in the first place.
Yes. Let's get into the structure.
Because he didn't just happen to cross paths with Violet on the parapet. He was systematically boxed into her orbit by these structural forces that stripped him of almost all his agency regarding her survival.
He was completely cornered.
Completely. We can look at this through the framework of a triple layer of protection. 3 distinct, absolute mandates that forced his hand long before his heart ever got involved.
Okay, so let's start with the foundation. Layer 1. The deal with General Lilith Sorrengail.
The absolute cruelty of that deal.
It's wild. We know Xaiden carries the 107 silver-lined scars. We know they represent the children of the rebellion's leaders. But I want to really dig into the psychological profiling of what actually happened when he was 16.
He was just a kid himself.
Right, a teenager. And he offers his own life, his own body, as collateral for over 100 kids. And Lilith's price for this is a so-called personal favor.
Which is to protect Violet from targeted assassinations.
Yeah. The irony is just suffocating.
The political sadism of that deal cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
General Sorrengail is effectively weaponizing the trauma of the Marked Ones to secure her own bloodline.
Because she knows the Marked Ones are the biggest threat to Violet.
Exactly. Xaden's survival, and by extension the survival of the 107, is suddenly entirely dependent on the continued breathing of a girl who represents the regime that slaughtered their parents.
It's so twisted.
It is. And the critical caveat here is the nature of the protection. He isn't supposed to, like, catch her if she slips on the parapet.
Right, Lilith doesn't care about accidental deaths. That's just the quadrant.
Precisely. He is supposed to act as a human shield against political assassinations.
Which, ironically, means protecting her from his own people.
Yes. From the very people he just sacrificed his body to save.
And this is where I start to view his initial interactions with Violet like the glaring, the threatening posturing under the tree in Chapter 7 where he tells her she is his to deal with. I see that not as authentic hatred, but as deeply necessary, high-stakes performance art.
Performance art is the perfect way to describe it.
I mean, if you were forced to be the secret bodyguard for the daughter of the CEO who bankrupted your family, you can't exactly walk into the break room and announce it.
No, they would tear you both apart.
Exactly. You have to project enough menace to convince your peers that you hate her more than they do, just so they'll leave her for you to handle.
Right. It's performative cruelty utilized as a tactical shield. The other marked cadets, quite justifiably, view Violet as the ultimate target for retribution.
They want her dead.
They absolutely do. And if Xaiden shows a fraction of an inch of sympathy, he loses his authority. The marked ones likely make an attempt on Violet's life, and then the entire group is executed by Lilith's decree.
So by claiming her as his own personal prey, he effectively creates a quarantine zone around her.
That's exactly it, a quarantine zone.
But I gotta ask, is it entirely performative?
What do you mean?
Because I look at the text and there's genuine resentment there. He might be protecting her, but in those early chapters, he resents the hell out of the fact that he has to.
Oh, without a doubt.
He is literally carrying the physical scars of her mother's brutality on his back. I don't think we can just sanitize his early hostility by calling it a clever cover story.
That is a very fair distinction. The resentment is absolutely real. The hostility, however, is calibrated.
Calibrated, I like that.
He hates the situation, and he resents what she represents, but he directs the performative danger toward her to keep the rest of the quadrant at bay.
He's playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
He is. And this psychological burden is compounded exponentially when we factor in Layer 2, which requires us to integrate the timeline of the Russian Revolution.
Oh, yes. Layer 2, we have to talk about Brennan Zorngale.
The Brennan connection changes everything.
It really does, because Violet is wandering around the quadrant, mourning her dead brother, completely oblivious to the fact that Brennan is alive, mending, and operating as a high-ranking leader in the revolution.
Alongside Xaiden. They are literally partners in treason.
Exactly. We have to, extrapolate the off-page dynamic here based on the timelines. Xaiden and Brennan have been working together to rebuild Eurasia.
They are co-architects of an insurgency.
And that requires an immense level of operational trust. You don't just build a secret city with someone you kind of know.
Right. And Brennan is fundamentally aware of Navarre's conscription policies. He knows his mother's ruthlessness better than anyone.
So it is a statistical certainty that Brennan knew Violet was being forced into the Riders' Quadrant.
It's impossible that he didn't know, or at least highly suspect it.
Yeah. I've seen this debated endlessly on Reddit and all of the deep dive forums, but I firmly believe Brennan had a direct conversation with Xaiden about Violet before she ever set foot on the parapet.
I would bet my life on it.
Right. You do not spend years building a revolution with someone and not mention that your fragile, scribe-trained little sister is about to be thrown into the meat grinder.
Hey man, just a heads up. My mom is probably going to try to murder my sister via conscription.
Exactly. I just imagine Brennan pulling Xaiden aside before the academic year starts and giving him a very clear directive, something like, she's not built for this, but she is brilliant. Watch her back.
I agree with that assessment completely, and it reframes Aiden's physical proximity to her in those early days so much.
It totally flips the power dynamic.
Think about it. When Violet observes him watching her across the courtyard or tracking her movements during formations, she interprets it through the lens of a prey animal being stalked by an apex predator.
She thinks she's about to be eaten.
But if we apply the Brennan context, Xaiden isn't assessing a target. He is auditing an asset.
Wow. Auditing an asset.
He is looking at Brennan's sister and trying to calculate the probability of her survival. He's honoring an unspoken pact with his revolutionary counterpart.
That makes it so much more romantic in a twisted way. Violet thinks she is fighting this solitary battle against the establishment, but Xaiden is actually operating as an unseen, incredibly stressed guardian angel.
Well, a guardian angel with severe trauma and shadow magic.
Fair enough. But still, he's watching out for her.
He is. And just when he has managed to balance the Lilith mandate with the Brennan loyalty, which is already a precarious tightrope, the Empyrean throws the ultimate biological wrench into the machine.
Yes. Layer 3. The mated bond between Terran and Scale.
It is the cosmic joke of the century.
It really is just the universe laughing directly in Xaiden's face.
It's the death of his autonomy, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Once Violet bonds Terran, the geopolitical and magical realities of Navarre dictate that their lives are irrevocably tethered.
Because Terran and Scale are a mated pair.
Exactly. If Violet's fragile, untried body fails her, Terran dies.
And if Terran dies, the shockwave likely kills his mate, Scale.
And if Scale dies, Xaiden dies.
Boom! Domino effect. So we have a blood pact with the mother, a revolutionary alliance with the brother, and now a biological dead man switch tied to the dragons.
He is boxed in from every conceivable angle.
He has a triple layer of duty keeping him bound to her. He literally has no choice but to be in her physical space, to oversee her training, to constantly monitor her vitals.
And this structural entrapment creates a fascinating psychological baseline.
How so? Like the forced proximity trope.
Exactly. When you force two highly intelligent, fiercely stubborn people into a pressure cooker of constant proximity and existential dread, the transition from duty to obsession isn't just likely, it's inevitable.
It's a recipe for disaster or romance or both.
Usually both in this series.
True, but theoretical entrapment is one thing. The moment it actually crystallizes into tangible, undeniable attraction happens on the mat.
Oh, we have to talk about the sparring match.
Yes. We have to look at the somatic realities of Chapter 9. From Violet's perspective, this scene is a horror movie.
She is standing across from the most lethal wing leader in the quadrant.
She is convinced she is about to be pulverized. I mean, he's massive, he's terrifying. But when we finally get inside Xaiden's internal monologue in this bonus chapter,
It reveals a level of intellectual fascination that borders on reverence.
it's amazing. He's not annoyed, he's in awe.
Because Xaiden sees what the rest of the Navarian military apparatus completely ignores. He sees the value of the scribe mind.
Let's unpack that. The scribe mind.
Well, let's analyze the doctrine of the writer's quadrant first. It is a brutal Darwinian system that exclusively rewards brute strength and dominant signets.
Right, it's a meat grinder.
Exactly. It's designed to produce blunt instruments for the king's army, just point and shoot. And Violet doesn't fit that mold. Her joints are brittle, she is physically smaller.
She literally cannot win a fistfight against these people.
So she adapts. She utilizes her botanical knowledge to slip paralyzing agents and poisons into her opponent's food and water before the matches even begin.
The poisoning game. And Violet is so tormented by this, she views it as a moral failing.
She really does. She internalizes the quadrant's toxic masculinity and feels like she's cheating because she can't win a fair fight.
At Xaiden looks at this and is utterly floored.
He is. Because Xaiden isn't fighting a conventional war, he's running an insurgency.
And insurgencies require a totally different skill set.
Exactly. Insurgencies do not survive on brute strength. They survive on asymmetric warfare, subterfuge, and tactical brilliance.
So when he realizes she's poisoning people...
When Xaiden realizes Violet has been systematically neutralizing larger, stronger opponents before they even step onto the mat, he doesn't see a fragile girl breaking the rules of engagement.
He sees a ruthless tactician.
Yes. He sees the exact kind of mind that is required to survive the Venan threat that the Navarre leadership is desperately trying to hide.
That is such a crucial distinction. And honestly, it is so deeply intimate when someone sees the thing you are most deeply ashamed of, your perceived greatest weakness, and they immediately recognize it as your most lethal strength.
It's the ultimate validation.
Violet thinks her physical limitations make her a liability, but Xaiden realizes that her physical limitations forced her to sharpen her intellect into a weapon that is far more dangerous than any sword.
And he actively cultivates that weapon during the sparring match. He doesn't just admire it, he tests it.
Yes, let's break down the choreography of that fight in Chapter 9, because Xaiden is in complete control the entire time.
He is intentionally holding back, guiding her movements, testing her reflexes.
And the most telling moment, the one that always gets me, is when he disarms her and purposefully kicks her daggers directly over to Dane Ados on the sidelines.
Oh, that move is so loaded with subtext.
I want to spend some time on this because Dane is the ultimate foil here. Xaiden kicking those daggers to Dane is not just a random combat maneuver.
Not at all. It is a highly specific, non-verbal indictment of Dane's entire philosophy regarding Violet.
Right. What is Dane's primary objective throughout the first half of the book? He wants to put Violet in a glass box.
He wants her to run. He is constantly lobbying for her to transfer to the Scribe Quadrant because he views her physical limitations as a fatal defect.
He wants to protect her by diminishing her.
Precisely. He wants to keep her safe by keeping her weak.
And Xaiden kicking that dagger to Dane's feet is his way of saying, your brand of protection is a cage. You are actively hindering her potential.
Exactly. Xaiden challenges Violet to rise to the lethal environment she is in, whereas Dane tries to shield her from the reality of the world entirely.
Which leads directly to the genesis of the nickname Violence.
Such a great nickname.
When you only have Violet's perspective, it reads like a slightly antagonistic, teasing pun on her name. But from Xaden's POV, it is an anointing.
It's an acknowledgement of her underlying ferocity.
By calling her Violence, he is giving her permission to be dangerous. He is validating her right to exist in a space that Dane claims she doesn't belong in.
It is a profound mark of respect. But, we also can't ignore the physiological reality of Chapter 9.
Oh, the physical tension is off the charts.
The intellectual respect is the foundation, but the physical attraction is what sets the entire structure on fire.
Let's talk about the pin. When he finally gets her on the mat.
When he presses her down, the internal monologue shifts drastically.
The physical tells in that scene are incredible. He's got her pinned, she is furious and terrified, but he catches this microscopic, involuntary flick of her eyes down to his mouth.
And it absolutely wrecks him.
Just completely derails his thought process.
For Xaiden, a man who is accustomed to being viewed exclusively with fear, suspicion, or political calculation, witnessing a flash of genuine, unadulterated physical desire from her is a massive shock to his system.
It's a pivotal loss of equilibrium for him.
The source material notes that he actually entertains a fleeting, highly intrusive thought about dragging her into an empty classroom right then and there, just to see how far that mutual attraction goes.
Wait, really? Just right off the mat?
Yes. He is a man who prides himself on absolute, ironclad control, and in that split second on the mat, we see the very first cracks in his mental shielding.
Wow. But, intellectual respect and simmering physical tension can stay unresolved for a long time.
Oh, they can exist in a vacuum indefinitely if no one makes a move.
Right. If you want to force a character to start repressing their feelings, you have to introduce an external threat. You have to trigger the territorial instinct.
Which brings us to the emotional bloodbath of Chapter 16.
The aftermath of threshing.
The stakes undergo a seismic shift here. Threshing is over. The dragons have made their choices, and Violet has bonded Tarn.
So the biological tether we talked about earlier is now active?
Exactly. We talked about the theoretical pressure cooker of the mated bond earlier, but Chapter 16 is where Xaiden experiences the visceral, cold sweat reality of what that bond actually means.
Because Violet nearly died on that field?
Jack Barlow and his cronies were moments away from executing her.
And Xaiden's reaction to that near miss is incredibly revealing. It isn't the calculated relief of a strategist whose assets survive.
Not at all. It is the raw, debilitating panic of a man who suddenly realizes his entire existence is tethered to someone he cannot control.
He realizes Violet Sorrengail has the capacity to completely destroy him, and not just physically, but emotionally.
And it is in this heightened state of vulnerability that he corners Dane.
This confrontation is so brilliant. Xaiden forces Dane into a hypothetical corner, demanding to know if Dane would have broken the codex to save Violet if he had known she was being hunted on the field.
He's testing him.
And Dane's admission that he would have let her die to uphold the rules of Navarre is the final nail in the coffin for Xaiden's respect for him.
If we pull the lens back and look at the thematic conflict of this series, Dane represents blind institutional loyalty. He is a fundamentalist for the rules.
While Xaiden represents moral flexibility in the face of corruption.
Exactly. Xaiden realizes right there that Dane is a company man. Dane will always choose the institution over the individual.
He cannot be trusted with Violet's life because his ultimate allegiance is to a system that is fundamentally broken.
But let's be real. Xaiden's interrogation of Dane isn't just a philosophical debate about military ethics.
No, it rapidly devolves into pure, unadulterated jealousy once they get out onto the flight field.
The scene on the flight field is a masterclass in the breakdown of stoicism.
Violet is exhausted, she is battered from threshing, and Dane approaches her and begins unlacing her armor.
And Xaden is watching this physical intimacy, and his internal monologue is just a rapid-fire sequence of increasingly unhinged mental insults directed at Dane.
He is completely spiraling. The text says he is actively trying to formulate a plan to stay as far away from Violet as possible, while simultaneously refusing to look away from Dane touching her.
It's the definition of cognitive dissonance. I need to leave, but I literally cannot stop staring at this guy touching her.
And then Dane kisses her.
This is the moment of truth for Xaden's emotional state. He braces himself for rage. He expects to feel possessive fury.
But when he actually analyzes Violet's physical reaction to the kiss, what he experiences is a massive, overwhelming wave of relief.
The quote is iconic.
Yeah.
He watches the kiss happen, studies her face, and notes to himself, quote, Sorrengail looked like she just kissed her cousin.
Kissed her cousin. It's so brutal.
That specific phrasing is so important. It highlights the absolute lack of romantic spark on her end.
The giddiness Xaiden feels in that moment completely obliterates his attempts to maintain a professional distance.
He's just so thrilled she isn't into it.
I have a question about this, though, because it's easy to read that and say, oh, he's just happy he doesn't have competition. But I look at this scene and I wonder, is it possible Xaiden is relieved because if Violet was in love with Dane, she would be more susceptible to Dane's influence, which makes her a larger threat to the rebellion's secrets?
Oh, that's an interesting angle.
Like, is this a tactical relief or is it purely romantic possession?
That is a phenomenal question. And I think the answer lies in the physiological response he has.
Okay, tell me more.
If it were purely tactical, he would note it and move on. Asset secure, threat mitigated.
Yeah.
But his reaction is visceral. The text describes a physical lightning, a releasing of tension that he didn't fully realize he was holding.
So it is romantic possession.
It is. He doesn't just want her to be independent of Dane's influence. He actively wants to be the one occupying the space Dane is failing to fill.
He wants to be the one kissing her.
Exactly. And the proof of this romantic framing comes directly from Skell.
Oh, we have to talk about Stale here. She is the best part of these chapters.
Because dragons share a telepathic link with their riders, Skell has a front row seat to this entire embarrassing internal monologue.
And she is an ancient, terrifying blue dagger-tailed dragon, and she essentially just rolls her eyes at him.
Skell's interruption is fantastic. She cuts through his jealous spiraling with, quote, You did not just bring me into this nonsense.
It's nonsense. It's so dismissive and perfect.
It serves a vital narrative function, honestly. Skell is the objective observer. Xaden lies to himself constantly about his motivations. He rationalizes his obsession as duty.
But Stale strips all that away.
By mocking him, she forces the reader to see how entirely compromised he is. Xaden, the shadow wielder, the rebel leader, the man with impenetrable mental shields, is leaking his adolescent jealousy into the mind of a war dragon.
His control is entirely fractured.
Which bridges us perfectly into Chapter 27.
Oh man, Chapter 27.
Because if Chapter 16 is the fracture of his control, Chapter 27 is the complete collapse of it.
This is where he stops trying to suppress the attraction and begins actively weaponizing his authority to manipulate situations just to be near her.
Chapter 27 takes us away from Basgiath and out to the outpost of Montserrat.
Violet's squad has won a tactical competition, and their reward is a visit to the outpost where her sister Mira is stationed.
And Xaden, who has absolutely zero administrative or military reason to be babysitting a squad of first years on a prize trip, decides to tag along.
The opening line of this chapter is legendary.
What is it again?
Quote, Dane Ados is dancing on my last fucking nerve.
It establishes the baseline emotional state immediately. He is highly irritable, intensely territorial, and deeply motivated.
Now, we have to inject the Iron Flame context here.
Right.
Because Xaiden uses a highly critical rebellion operation to justify his presence at Montserrat.
Right, the Allied daggers.
He is running a massive smuggling operation to get the only weapons capable of killing Venin to the Griffin Flyers.
He orchestrates this elaborate ruse where Imogen fakes an illness so she can slip across the border and make the drop while he acts as a distraction at the outpost.
It is high treason. If he is caught, he is executed, Imogen is executed, the rebellion is crippled, and the Venin threat goes unchecked.
It is a mission that requires absolute focus.
But I'm going to challenge the narrative that he's this brilliant strategist here.
Please do.
Because he risks the entire operation, he risks the fate of the continent. For what? To cockblock Dane Ados? It's incredibly reckless.
You are absolutely right to challenge it, and that recklessness is the entire point of the chapter. Scale calls him out on this exact hypocrisy.
She doesn't let him get away with it at all.
When Xaiden tries to mentally justify his presence at Montserrat by citing the weapon drop, Scale ruthlessly dismantles his logic.
What does she say?
The sources highlight her telepathic mockery. She says, quote, "Where's Violet now? What is she doing? Is she thinking of me? Is she missing me? Is she getting closer to Ados?"
She just brutally exposes him.
Scale knows the weapon drop was secondary. The primary motivation was that Xaiden physically could not stomach the idea of Violet spending 3 uninterrupted days away from his sphere of influence, especially with Dane present.
He is, in modern parlance, completely down bad.
He really is. His protective instincts and his possessive jealousy have completely overridden his strategic caution.
He is compromising the security of the rebellion because he is too emotionally fragile to let her out of his sight.
And the way this manifests in the briefing room at Montserrat is pure, petty psychological warfare.
It is hilarious. They are sitting around a tactical map with Mira, discussing deployment strategies.
And Xaiden makes it his absolute mission to systematically strip Dane of any perceived authority or dignity.
We see Xaiden leveraging his superior rank and his superior intellect purely to humiliate a romantic rival.
He physically maneuvers himself to sit next to Violet, intentionally boxing out Liam.
He just shoves Liam out of the way.
And then he maintains this predatory stare on Dane until Dane becomes visibly uncomfortable and loses his train of thought.
He even drapes his arm over the back of Violet's chair.
The audacity.
It is such a blatant, primitive display of claiming territory that even Mira, who barely knows Xaiden, picks up on the dynamic and gets furious.
Xaiden is essentially taking a sledgehammer to Dane's ego, and he's enjoying every single second of it.
But amidst all of this posturing and petty warfare, Xaden crosses a massive boundary.
The telepathic pathway.
Yes. The mated bond between Tan and Scale creates a latent telepathic pathway between their riders. Up until this point, it has been dormant.
Violet doesn't even know how to access it yet.
But Xaden intentionally opens that door, and he doesn't open it to warn her about the Vinin or to discuss strategy.
No, he opens it to flirt.
He slides right into her mind just to tease her for staring at him. He literally says, "You're staring. It's going to get awkward in about 30 seconds if you don't stop."
And then he just winks at her.
It's so arrogant.
But the arrogance masks a profound revelation. When Xaden initiates that mental connection, he experiences an epiphany.
What happens?
The text indicates that the moment he feels her presence in his mind, he realizes this connection isn't just a byproduct of the dragons, it is vital to his own equilibrium.
Wow.
He listens to her defend him against the accusations from Mira and Dane. He feels the warmth of her mind against his, and he concludes that she is, quote, fucking perfect.
He is fully gone. The compartmentalization has completely failed.
And he needs that realization because this situation deteriorates into absolute chaos moments later.
Oh, the attack.
The magical wards protecting the Montserrat outpost fail. The background hum of the Navarre magic vanishes, signaling an imminent attack by Griffin flyers.
And this is the crucible moment for Xaiden's character arc.
Mira immediately orders an evacuation, and she specifically targets Xaiden, ordering him to take Violet and get her out of the combat zone, because Violet isn't stable enough in the saddle to survive an aerial dogfight.
Now, let's analyze Aiden's duty in this moment. He is the most powerful weapon in that room.
His shadow signet is a massive tactical advantage.
His duty to Navarre, his duty to the outpost, and arguably his duty as a warrior, demands that he stay and fight.
But Violet refuses to leave.
She starts physically fighting Xaden, screaming that she isn't going to abandon her sister to die.
And Xaiden is faced with an impossible choice.
Does he stay and fight knowing Violet will refuse to leave and will likely be killed in the crossfire? Or does he abandon the outpost, abandon his post, to ensure her survival?
Every instinct he has as a soldier is screaming at him to engage the enemy.
But the instinct to keep her safe completely eclipses his martial duty. He grabs her, and when she continues to thrash and fight him, he employs a highly unconventional tactical maneuver.
He kisses her.
The distraction kiss. It is arguably the most intense moment of the book.
He uses physical intimacy to literally shock her nervous system into compliance.
It's a sensory overload tactic.
By kissing her with that level of intensity, he forces her brain to temporarily short-circuit, giving him the crucial 3 seconds he needs to subdue her, throw her over his shoulder, and get her onto Taryn's back.
It is brilliant, it is desperate, and it fundamentally changes who he is as a character.
Because by flying away from that battle, he is actively choosing her over the war.
That is the exact narrative shift. The transition from I want her to I cannot exist without her is complete.
He is willing to sacrifice his reputation, to face court-martial for abandoning his post, and to suppress his own visceral need to fight, purely to ensure that she continues to breathe.
His protective instinct has fully mutated into absolute devotion.
When we pull all of these threads together, the sheer scale of the perspective shift is staggering.
Throughout the entirety of Fourth Wing, Violet believes she is the underdog. She thinks she is fighting a desperate battle for survival against a man made of stone and shadows.
But the tragedy and the romance of the bonus chapters is the realization that Xaiden was the one fighting a losing battle.
He wasn't a stone wall. He was a dam barely holding back a catastrophic flood.
He recognized her brilliance when everyone else saw weakness. He manipulated the entire social structure of the quadrant to keep her safe without blowing his cover.
He agonized over her physical safety to the point of compromising his own rebellion.
It makes you reevaluate how we perceive the antagonist in our own lives, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, for you listening, how often do we misread someone's intensity or distance, only to realize later they were fighting internal battles we couldn't see?
We see the hostility, we see the rigid boundaries, but we almost never see the sheer volume of internal panic required to maintain that facade.
Xaiden's entire terrifying persona was just armor, and inside it was a guy desperately trying to keep a fragile house of cards from collapsing on top of the woman he loved.
It forces the reader to question every assumption they made during the first read-through.
And speaking of questioning assumptions, our dive into the source material yielded one final, highly disruptive theory from the fandom.
Oh yes, a theory that suggests we shouldn't just be questioning Xaiden's agency, but human agency entirely.
The Skell Puppet Master theory. This is the deepest cut from the Reddit threads, and it is absolute madness in the best way possible.
The theory asks a fundamental question about the power dynamics of the Empyrean universe.
Hmm.
Did Skelly orchestrate the entire romance?
Okay, I have to push back hard on this initially. Dragons are ancient, immortal creatures of war. They view humans as mayflies.
Right, they barely tolerate us.
Why on earth would Scally, the most ruthless dragon in the quadrant, care about the romantic entanglements of a 20-something shadow wielder? It sounds like fans projecting romance onto a creature of mass destruction.
That is the logical counterargument. But let's look at the evidence the theory presents.
Okay, lay it out for me.
Go back to conscription day. Violet crosses the parapet, and the very first thing that happens in the courtyard is Skell, this massive blue dagger tail giving Violet a long, intensely calculating stare.
Right, and Stal shares a mind with Sigzald.
Exactly. Because of their bond, Skell feels everything Xaden feels. She felt the immediate spike of his attraction to Violet.
She felt his intellectual fascination with the scribe mind during the sparring matches.
She felt the depths of his agonizing protectiveness. Skell knew, long before Xaiden was willing to admit it to himself, that Violet was his perfect counterpart.
So the theory posits that Scale, recognizing Skaiden's obsession, essentially played matchmaker.
It goes deeper than matchmaking. It's political maneuvering.
How so?
Taryn, Scale's mate, had been dormant for years. If Taryn is going to bond again, Scale needs to ensure the human he bonds to is inextricably linked to her own rider, thereby keeping Taryn close.
Oh, wow.
If she recognizes Violet's tactical brilliance and Xaiden's fierce devotion, she can nudge Taryn toward Violet, securing both her mate's proximity and her rider's emotional anchor.
That is terrifying. Because it means when Taryn stepped onto the field during threshing and chose Violet, it wasn't just a spontaneous act of recognizing her bravery.
It was a calculated, preordained move orchestrated by Scale to force Xaiden and Violet into the mated bond proximity.
Scale manipulated the biological laws of the Empyrean just to trap Xaiden in a room with the girl he couldn't stop thinking about.
It elevates the dragons from mere weapons to the ultimate architects of human destiny.
It suggests that while the humans are down in the dirt playing checkers with their little rebellions and codex rules, the dragons are playing 4D chess with human bloodlines to prepare for the real war against the Menin.
It is brilliant, and it absolutely demands an immediate reread of the entire series.
You go back, but this time you aren't watching Xaiden's shadows or Violet's daggers. You are watching the dragons in the background, subtly pulling the strings of every major political and romantic development on the continent.
It's a testament to Yaros's layered world building. Every time you shift the perspective, a completely new narrative emerges.
And that is the beauty of the Hidden Diary. You think you know the story. You think it's a simple tale of a girl surviving a deadly college and falling for the brooding antagonist.
But peel back the layers, step into the wing leader's mind, and suddenly it's a totally different book.
Suddenly, it's a story about a desperate, traumatized revolutionary who was conquered by a brilliant scribe on day one, all while a pair of ancient dragons manipulated the fate of a nation just to force them together.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And that, right there, is why we dive deep.